So basically, we're just going to hold this meeting just to talk to you about how we're going to teach your child to read and how best you can support your child at home. Obviously, if you've had an older child through school, the way we do it now is really quite different, because we follow the Read Write Inc programme, which is a national programme. Lots of schools use it across the country, and it's got a really good track record. Ofsted certainly recommends it. The government have really streamed down now how schools should deliver phonics for reading, and they only recommend so many packages that schools can use, and this is the one that they recommend the most. And we used it last year in reception, didn't we? And we noticed a massive difference in the way that children picked up reading and learnt to read. So it is successful, but it is quite different. So we're just going to give you a taste of that now. So every day when your child comes to school, we register them and we start with what's called a speed sound lesson. So this is basically teaching your children the sounds they'll need to read. And you can see behind me, we have freezers up in the classroom with the sounds that they've been taught and are going to be taught shortly. So today your children have been taught the letter T, so the T sound. So we're just going to give you a little flavour of what that's like. So we always start with saying the sound. So, and we have this action that's my turn, your turn. So we would go t, 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 t. So they start by hearing the sound, and then we have picture cards. So then I would be t, 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 tower, t, 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 tower, train, train. And there's usually 4 pictures that we go through. So you're saying t, all the time. And then where's my whiteboard? And then you would keep saying t, 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 watch me draw a tower, and this is where we have to be quite good artists on the spot. So I would be drawing a tower and be saying tower, 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 tower. And then they have the picture of the tower, and we show it tower, and they notice that it's the same. So we'd spend a bit of time saying tower, tower, tower. And the reason behind it is it links them into a picture. So a child might not always remember that that is a T, but they will remember tower. So initially, if they're not remembering the sounds, you can flick the card round and they'll say tower. So it's just a way of helping them remember. It's a hook to help them remember the sound. So then we would draw the T, and we would say t, 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 t. They're the same. And then you play a little game where we would hide it, and if you show that side they'll say tower, and if you show that side they'll say t, and we'll do that for a bit. And then you hide. So these are the sounds that your children have already learned. So we hide the sound in the pack, and then when they see the sound they point to it and say t. So okay, and we do that a few times, and then we review the sounds they've already learned. So I would start by modelling it myself, just so that they get the sound correctly. So a, d, t, s, a, and then they do it, and then we do it a few times, getting quicker each time. So that's the start of a speed sound lesson and how we introduce the sound. And the theory behind it is if they hear the sound a lot of the time before showing them this, and they have the picture to go with it, they're more likely to remember it. And we do find that they do, don't they?
Absolutely.
And when we have these on us all day, and we might just suddenly put them up at different times of the day and see if they can remember. Like I say, if they struggle on one, we'll flip it over. So was mountain, so they'll say mountain, so it helps them remember. The next part of the session is starting because they can know the sounds, but they need to be able to do what we call blend those sounds to read a word. So this is why it's so important that your child says the sounds correctly. So for example, if they say the pure sound, so it's always the shortest unit of sound. So a good example of the word is ham. So if they say the sounds h, a, they can hear ham. If they go h, a, m, they hear hammer. So it's really important that they say the short sound. And there are videos on the Oxford Owl website that have a child showing how each sound should be said, but it's basically the shortest unit of sound, because if they start saying g, k, they're going to struggle to be able to make words with those sounds when they're reading. So we have this little character called Fred, and Fred can only say the sounds in words. He can't read the word, he can just say the sounds. So he talks in our ear, and we might say, so we've learned today, so I might say t, app, 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 and then when Fred looks at them, they have to say the word that they think they've heard, tap, and then we do practicing. So t, app, tap, t, app, tap, t, app, tap, t, app, tap. And it's really important that they say the sounds and they don't just say tap, because in doing that, when they come to read, it's that skill that they need. It's being able to hear those sounds and push them together to make a word. So we do have to spend quite a bit of time, don't we, insisting that they do tap, tap. So once they've done that, that's they would then practice writing the sound, and we do that in writing books at the tables. And what we're coming on to do now, which is the next part of the session, is where we're teaching them how to blend. So, oh, do you just want to say a bit about that?
Yeah, it was just to say, following on from the speed sounds lesson, we do put a video on Tapestry every time we learn a new sound, every time we teach a new sound. So it's really important, if you can find the time, to follow this up at home and to watch the video with your child. They are actually the official Read Writing videos that we've bought into, and that just really reinforces the sound we've learned that day. And also it will go through the actual pure sound that Helen's just talked about. So it will be, today with the sound t, lots of the children came to the lesson and they were saying t, t, and I'm like, no, your grown-ups might say that at home, but it isn't t, it's t. It's just that really pure sound. So if you also watch the videos, it will help with just reinforcing those sounds as well. So it's really important to watch those videos together.
So what we're coming on to now is, once they've learned a few sounds, we're now wanting to teach them to blend, and we do it through using the cards. So I'm just going to demonstrate how we might teach them how to blend the word mad. So I might start by saying at d, mad, at d, at d, at d, at at, and you keep doing it until they get the mad, and then we'd keep practicing.
At, mad, at, mad.
So it very much starts off as us doing it, and then once they've got it, they practice. And then we have some little boards in the classroom. We've got some magnetic letters, but we've made little Velcro boards, and then we would say make mad. So then they make mad on their board and keep pressing it and going at mad. And we might do 3 words per session. That does take time, and I always think learning to blend is a little bit like when your child was walking or learning to ride a bike. Some will do it straight away, some it takes time, but they all get there in the end. And it's not always an indication of how well they're going to do with reading, it's just whether they're ready. So once they've got blending, we move on. But for some children, they stay at this stage for quite a long time. So please don't worry if your child isn't blending straight away. It does come. It is just a bit like, I can remember at playgroup with my 2, like other children would be running around and mine would still be crawling, and you'd be a bit like, oh, but then a few months later they'd all be running around together. It's a little bit like that. So again, it's nothing for you to worry about, but if you wanted to practice blending at home, that is the way we do it. It's them seeing the letters together and you really modeling that at until they can hear it. And to be honest, what they tell us to do is, if they're not getting it, we almost say the word. So say if Sarah wasn't getting it, mad.
So they act mad. So they,
and then when she says it, I would be like, yes, well done, you've heard mad, even though I've actually read it, because that in itself is going to help them. So, you know, don't keep, you can eventually tell them the word, but make them think that they've worked it out. Once they've learnt to blend, we then move on to reading word cards on green words, and that becomes part of the session. And again, we'll start with saying Fred talk, so that means they say the sounds, so they'll say d, read the word mad. But we don't go on to this until they can blend. And like I say, that's something that we assess regularly, and it might mean that your child's group changes. At the minute, we're all just teaching, because we're just starting, we all just start together, but then we do regular assessments and then group the children into where they need. So some children might be ready to learn new sounds quite quickly. They might blend quite quickly and go onto these. Some children might take a bit longer to learn the sounds and need extra practice and lots more blending practice, and that's absolutely fine, but we make sure that we have the groups right so that the children get what they need and can make the best progress or have the best support. After that, we start storybook lessons, but that isn't for quite some time yet, and we'll hold a separate meeting for that, because that's a totally different part to the session. And like I say, this is pretty much all that we're doing right now, so we will hold another meeting when that comes up. So it was just if you had any questions, really. If you unmute yourself.
Hi. Yeah, so can we get them kind of cards, or
to be honest with you, you can if you want to, but I think they're getting it a lot in school, and I think unless, you know, Theo was struggling and we said, oh, I think he needs a bit of extra practice, we would provide them for you at that point. I think the best thing you can do at the moment is just to watch those videos, and we always say the best thing to do with your child is to read to them. Often when children start to learn to read, we think, oh, we don't need to read to them anymore, and actually that is the best thing as a parent you can do. One of the Read Write Ink things, one of the big things about Read Write Ink is the shift is really on us as reading teachers to teach your child to read, and then you enjoy that with them, so that they're so skilled with it that they come home and they share it with you. And I think that's been a big shift from parents who've had older children, in that a lot of ownership was put on the parents to help teach their child to read. And I certainly felt when my two were younger, I didn't always have time to hear them read, and they didn't want to read to me, and it became a battle, and you used to feel like you weren't being a good parent if you hadn't done this, that and the other. Read Write Ink really takes that away. We teach the children, and then they're absolutely desperate to share it with you because they can do it. And I think that's one of the things that we found we've had to say to parents last year. They would say, oh, this is too easy. We say, no, it's because they've learned to read it with us rather than them learning to read it with you, and it's more about them sharing their successes with you. But if ever your child was struggling, we would make suggestions of things you could do at home. But I just think as long as you watch the videos and you read lots of stories, that's the best thing to do at the moment. And just to say, I am starting a family learning programme next week, where there's 6 weeks from 9 till 10 o'clock on a Thursday, that we're going to be practicing and doing these kind of things together. So if that's something you felt you could do, please sign up at the office, because that would be a really good thing to do. Is there any other questions? Right, well, I'll pop this on parent mail. Oh, did you have one there? Sorry.
No, I was just going to say, because I get really worried about Theo, because obviously at home we do 2 languages. Like, I really try to talk to him in Spanish, and like his dad does as well. So do you think that'll cause like confusion for him?
What we tend to find is children who have that do really, really well at school. They might initially find certain things take a little bit longer, but please don't stop doing that. The advice is that you carry on doing that, because in the long run, it's really beneficial for them. But it might be that at this age, certain things, he might confuse certain things, but it's nothing to worry about. So please, yes, do keep talking to him in Spanish. I think that's brilliant.
And that's where the sounds come in that we were talking about, because sometimes the pronunciation might be different. So it's worth watching the video to make sure that through his reading that you're using the right pronunciation too.
Yeah. Right, well, I'll pop this on parent mail, but thank you both for coming. Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.